The COVID-19 situation enters a new phase in the Philippines.
Proclamation number 922, declaring a state of public health emergency throughout the Philippines.
A nationwide alert level is up. Code Red.
Yung first day ng lockdown, nasa terminal tayo, di ba? Hindi namin alam na lockdown yun.
Bigla lang
And then siguro, we've been there mga 5 a.m. in the morning. So, siguro nag-stay kami doon, mga 2 hours na kami nakapila. Wala ka talaga, di ba?
Grabe.
Hindi
Tapos
ako,
merong dumating na bus, alam hindi punuan.
hindi punuan,
Sa
sabi
isang,
na kalahati lang sakay.
Oo.
Nagtaka kami, bakit kalahati lang ang sakay? Eh ako, syempre, ayoko naman. Tinanong ko ngayon yung mga driver, tsaka yung mga kaibigan kong driver, conductor. Sabi sa akin, wala nang bus na darating.
Parang,
Ang unang pumasok sa isip ko nun, paano yung daily needs natin? Syempre,
dalawa pa.
dalawa yung anak ko, and then nasa atin din yung parents ko. Sabi ko, paano ko mapaprovide to?
Paano na kaya yung, syempre yung pagkain natin, kailangan syempre yun, di ba? Eh, dalawa pa naman tayo.
Dalawa tayo, sa isang trabaho lang.
Kaya
Di ba, pares tayo mawawala ng trabaho. Sabi ko nga nun, ano natin kukunin yun? Paano tayo kikilos kung bawal lumabas? Di ba? Paano papasok sa opisina kung wala namang transportation?
Pero, yun lang. Kasi, si Sir nag-offer.
Si Sir,
Si Sir Kata nag-offer na, sige, pasundo si She. Talagang tuwang-tuwa ako nung sinundo ako. Grabe. Kasi, parang naninibago ako noon, nung pagpasok ng office, gano'n.
Pati kung napakahirap para sa amin kasi medyo malayo nga. Pero kawa naman ng Diyos, naging continuous naman yung trabaho.
Tsaka salamat sa Mapecon, syempre, na nandito pa rin tayo at saka continuous yung trabaho natin. At saka talaga napakaswerte natin dito, di ba?
Day, araw-araw yung pasok. Hindi na wala yung at least may nakukuha ng tayo. Pagkukuha ng pabiling pagkain, needs natin, makakasubay tayo.
Isa nga ako sa maswerte na nakakapasok kahit na alam natin na maraming mga checkpoints. Yun nga lang, kahit na nakakapasok kami, ang trabaho namin sa field, ang trabaho namin ay maghanap ng kliyente. Kaya namin maghanap ng kliyente through phone, pero siyempre, kinakailangan din namin puntahan. So yun yung nagiging struggle. Yung expenses mo, dahil sa panahon nito, ay mas mahirap. Most of the time, kahit na nakaka-close na kami ng account, ayaw mo na magpa-schedule. Kasi syempre, natatakot sa security dun sa taong magka-service. Nagtuloy-tuloy pa rin yung pandemic. Yung struggle natin is ang dami pa rin nawawalan ng work. And kami hirap na hirap. May mga kliyente nagpapa-service kasi meron tayong promo na binibigay. Kumbaga nakapag-divert ka agad tayo with the help of God. Siguro yung wisdom na yon na nung time na palagi tayo nagme-meeting, yung wisdom na kung bakit lumabas yung ganung promo na mag-free ng disinfection o mag-ano ng disinfection is siguro para sa akin binigay ng Diyos yun para magpatuloy yung business nyo. Itong pinagkatrabahuan natin, hindi lang tayo nagko-compensate pati yung soul natin. Napakaswerte ko at ng family ko, may trabaho ako at napakaswerte ko pa rin na yun, nasusustain natin yung pang-araw-araw. Hindi lang, minsan nabibigyan pa tayo ng company natin ng incentive. Para sa akin, yun ang pinakamalaking blessing. And pangalawa, yung nakakapag-servisyo tayo sa Panginoon.
Nung makabalik tayo sa operation, maraming client ang nagkaroon ng duda about this virus na kumakalat nga. Come up din sa service department ng mga adjustment, programs, kung paano natin may babalik yung trust ni client sa Mapecon. So, as what the IATF requires, yung magkaroon tayo ng rapid test or swab test, which is nag-comply naman si service department. Lahat ng ating service technician ay nag-undergo sila ng rapid test. Pasalamat din tayo dahil yung mga results ay puro naman negative. Si Mapecon nagko-comply kung ano man yung mandate ng ating batas.
Nung nag-umpisa ang ECQ, bagamat operational ang aming kumpanya, bilang essential service provider, maraming mga empleyado ang hindi makapasok dahil walang masakyan o naka-lockdown ang lugar nila. Isa sa misyon ng aming kumpanya ay pangalagaan ang temporal at spiritual na pangangailangan ng aming mga empleyado. Upang siguraduhin na makayanan ng aming empleyado ang kaibang karanasan ng quarantine, minabuti ng management na magbigay ng mga advances equivalent sa kanilang mga sweldo. Ito ay upang sigurado kaming hindi magugutom ang kanilang pamilya. Sa mga empleyadong tuloy-tuloy na nakapasok, naghanda kami ng tanghalian upang hindi na sila lumabas at maghanap pa ng kakainan. Naglagay kami ng mga setup sa loob ng opisina upang mapatupad namin ang social distancing. Noong may mga empleyado kaming kinailangan ilagay sa self or home quarantine, nagtalaga kami ng barracks upang siguraduhin ang kanilang kaligtasan, pati na rin ang kanilang mga pamilya. Tuwing Lunes ng alas 5 ng hapon, ginaganap ang aming online prayer meeting, kung saan nagbibigay puri at nagpapasalamat ang lahat ng mga taga-Mapecon sa ating Panginoon. Malugod namin kayong inaanyayahan makibahagi sa aming prayer meeting sa pamamagitan ng FB page ng Mapecon Philippines Incorporated.
Lockdown started, no transport allowed, so few people reported on the office. Then we made discussion how to address the problem. Prayer is the best solution. Pero kailangan tuloy ang laban. Trabaho for those who want to report. Opportunity comes in disinfection, termites, mostly residential. We continue our program and improve our equipment for disinfection. Our service group was so very supportive. Kahit alam nila, delikado. Kasi sabi, stay safe, stay home. Pero nagbigay naman ng complete gear like mask, PPE, ang management. We all Mapeconians place as one family, working together, pray at all times, even with or without pandemic. Up to this day, think of another good ideas to survive. Ang laki din tulong yung nilagay natin sa social media. Thanks to the help of Ms. Ria. Dahil nakikita ng mga kliyente natin na ang Mapecon ay nasa industriya pa rin. Tuloy-tuloy.
If you ask me what advice can I give you during this pandemic period, I would like to say simply, always be happy. Because if you are not happy, you can be depressed, and depression can lead to many other sicknesses.
Basta tayo maniwala na may Diyos na tumutulong. Kaya hanggang dito ay ibigay ko sa inyo ang magandang experience sa panahon nito. Pero hindi pa tayo tapos. Kaya hindi pa tapos ang ating mga panalangin. Laging tatandaan ang ating core values, creative, honest work. Katulad na lamang ng nasasabi sa Romans chapter 12 verse 11, magpapakasipag kayo at huwag maging tamad, buong puso kayong maglingkod sa Panginoon.
Do these sound bites sound familiar? Where's the report? The meeting's tomorrow already. I'm sorry for the rush, but could you please come up with a presentation by the end of the day? When things are going too fast, take a break. Catch up on the hot topics and issues of the day on the Manila Times Coffee Break. Enjoy the perks of Coffee Break on the Manila Times Facebook page. I'm the Fort Villasura. Please do join us.
Good day. Thank you for joining us at the Manila Times Coffee Break. My name is the Fort Villaseran, and today we shall be discussing Mapecon's 59th anniversary. With us is Mr. Bernard Ryan Atienza. He is the Assistant National Director for Mapecon. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for having me here. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I understand that you've been with the company for 7 years now, thereabouts. And
Officially, yes.
officially, yes. Although I understand you've actually been since birth being trained in the family business.
That's correct, sir. Ever since we were kids, yung mga kalaro namin, cockroaches, langaw, ipis, yan.
Cockroaches are friends, not foes.
That's true. That's my grandfather always used to say, "Don't be afraid of the cockroach. That's what gives. That's what put food on your table."
Hmm. That's a funny insight. Maybe like all those who are afraid that may mga phobias cockroaches might want to channel their fears into
At
money.
least may pinagkakitaan si Mapecon.
Yeah. So could you explain how because your family name is Atienza, but I understand that the founder of Mapecon is Mr. Gonzalo Catan Jr. He founded it on October 28, 1961. So that's 59
Yes.
years ago.
Yep.
Are you related to Mr. Catan?
Yeah, Mr. Catan is my grandfather. My full name is Bernard Ryan Catan Atienza. So my mother is Mr. Catan's daughter.
Okay.
So Ruth Catan Atienza, and she's currently the chief operating officer of the company.
Okay, so it is pretty much a family-oriented kind of business, which has its
Yes.
own unique advantages and challenges.
That's
But I
true.
think
That's true.
what helps the company last to be resilient, especially in this period of uncertainty, I understand is the fact that there's a very strong, well-knit organization, a very almost not just a literal family organization, but in that holistic sense of family between the founding family members and the longtime employees, some of which I understand also are have become partners. Former employees are now even partners in the business.
Correct. We have right now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 16 or 17 of our 46 branches are now being held by partners. So these are former employees and friends of Mapecon whose loyalty to the company and living the core values of the company, they've been awarded with a stake in that particular region.
It is interesting how in these difficult times, while other companies are contracting and possibly even being shuttered, yours is expanding. You mentioned that you have more partners. From my research, I understand only last year there were about 15 partners. So you've had additional.
Yes,
partners.
we've had a few additional partners. We've also been expanding the lines of business.
Last year you had 700 employees, thereabouts.
That's
Full
true.
time also, I understand.
Right. Right now we have around 800 employees. This is mainly due to the fact that you mentioned earlier about being resilient,
Yes.
and interesting because our theme for this year's anniversary is actually resilience in adversity, relying on our sure foundation. So our sure foundation is the corporate culture and the core values that have been instilled with us by Mr. Gatan. And the number one mission of Mapecon has always been to create employment. So this isn't the first calamity that Mapecon has faced. There was a recession in the early 90s that forced a lot of SMEs to close their businesses. But Mr. Catan's directive during that time was to keep hiring people because this is the time when they'll need a source of income when they're being laid off.
Yes.
And true enough, those people that we hired during the time of recession, they've remained some of our hardest working, most loyal, and most promising employees to this date. So during this time of pandemic, we're trying to do the same thing. We haven't had any retrenchments. We haven't laid anybody off.
That's great.
As much as possible, we've allowed flexible work arrangements so that they can continue having a source of income, a steady source of income. And we believe that because of this, we are helping to change the hearts and minds of these people.
how are you able to? How does that, in operational terms, how does that work for your teams going out into the field? How does the remote working or the blended type of operations apply specifically to the industry that you're in?
Right. Pest control, of course, is a service industry. So the office work, the stuff that happens in the office, mostly administrative work, finance work. We've been able to successfully have work from home and flexible working schedules so that we reduce the number of people physically reporting to the office by about 70%. But they're still
Yes.
from home and they're still able to contribute. However, being a service business, Sir DeFort, we can't eliminate the physically being present of our service technicians, right? And the majority of our workforce are comprised of these service technicians. These are the people who go to the homes of our clients to perform the actual services. So what we've done to ensure that they remain safe and that our customers remain safe is before deploying them every morning, they have to go through a health checklist and have themselves checked out by our company nurse, as well as fill out a health questionnaire as prescribed by the DOLE. So this is being done daily. And anytime there is something that is cause for concern, even if it's not a fever, kahit magreklamo lang na sumasaktan siyan or nahihilo, ganyan, we automatically, we've set up what used to be our barracks or resting place for employees for their lunch breaks. We've turned it into a temporary quarantine facility.
So you have your own.
Quarantined, yes, we have our own. If they need to be quarantined, kasi most of these our employees, they're not rich. They're middle class, providing for their family. So when they're told that you're under observation, you need to quarantine yourself for 14 days. Usually their first question is, how do I do that? I live at home with my wife and my kid. We live in a one-bedroom apartment. And
that's the reality usually.
That's why we provided a facility where they can stay for the 14 days or until we're able to get them to do a swab test.
And you had the local government help or perhaps a health institution that gave you or shared their guidelines with you to be able to make it on par with national effort?
Oh, yes. Well, with regards to the government efforts, I can't fault what DOH and DOLE have done to communicate what companies like us need to do. So we've followed their guidelines. In some cases, we've gone beyond their guidelines because we're blessed to have relatives who are doctors, who can be called upon to do on-site consultation if needed, or virtual consultations if needed. But basically, we've been blessed to have. We already know what needs to be done, and it's just a matter of actually implementing the guidelines that have been set.
That's really great because it's no joke to be able to look after 800 or so full-time employees. These aren't just contractual workers.
Yes.
You look after their families, even I imagine, in terms of the benefits for their well-being.
Yes, and we also, as part of our compensation package, we do enroll all of our employees in an HMO. So they're all covered by an HMO. They all have been briefed on how to use it, which facilities are accredited by our HMO, so that if they feel anything, don't risk it. Get yourself checked.
So I imagine that since they're all at present, they're pretty much all in the best of health and all ready to go out and help bring up the economy, so to speak. How has business been so far? I imagine it doesn't necessarily as hoped.
Well, again, another blessing of being, I like to call it one of the dirty jobs. Pest control is one of the dirty jobs.
Yes.
It's something that's not glamorous, but it needs to get done. So when you're talking about essential services, this is an essential service. So we saw a marked decline in March and April of this year, but we were able to bounce back around May. So the decline in the
Would you
business.
say there was a surge in demand because of the all of the lockdowns preventing any movement, and then suddenly now, okay, now that we can move, we need to do this, this, and this, and as part of the essential needs, they called on you.
Yeah, we've seen that happen, and that's one of the reasons why we're able to bounce back quickly. But also, I think an advantage of Mapecon is being one of the largest and the pioneers of pest control. They call it in Tagalog, mahaba ang pise.
Yes.
So a lot of our customers are hospitals, restaurants, hotels, schools, even churches that need to open. But before they open, they need to have pest control and disinfection done. But they're unable to pay right now because they haven't had any revenue for the past few months. So in cases like that, we've been able to serve them first and work out the details afterwards.
I imagine that with unusual times come unusual payment schemes. Perhaps you've had
Yes.
X deals and all sorts of pro bono and tit for tat kind of arrangement.
Yes. Well, X deals, we've always been a fan of X deals, which is exchanging services for another service. We've also had payment schedules, staggered payments, and we're always open to that. Our number one core value is to provide maximum value to our customers. And part of how we're able to do that is we're able to adjust to what the customer needs during these trying times.
Yes, I think that's part of what makes people have more affinity for your brand and loyalty to your services.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yes, but I like how you touched upon one of the core values of the company, and then being able to provide value and service to them. Could I ask you to say a little bit more about the core values of Mapecon that makes it unique from others in the same industry and other Filipino companies?
Sure. We actually have 7 core values. And the core values these are the non-negotiables. Whatever changes, whatever happens, these are the things that we will rely on. This is our sure foundation. And the core values, they're easy to remember for us because we patterned them after the name of the company, so Mapecon. So I mentioned the first one is maximum value for our customers. So the second one is A, adherence to honesty, integrity, and transparency. Next is P, passion for excellence through creative, honest work. Next is E, environmentally friendly products and services through dynamic research and development. Letter C, of course, is Christ-centered. Letter O is the optimum concern for our employees' temporal and spiritual needs. And lastly, letter N, nationalistic with a global outlook.
Well,
So
it
those
seems
are
like I imagine since you were a kid, you were being drilled, asked by your grandfather, or what's letter N?
No, interestingly, sir, the fourth, the core values and the mission vision, we documented and formalized it. I was already working for Mapecon around 6 years ago.
And yet these are simply articulation of the work ethic of
yes.
I understand.
It's interesting because I just attended yesterday an online webinar from being done by PMAP, People Management Association. So one of the things they touched upon is the importance of having a solid corporate culture. They said culture will eat strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
And we're blessed enough that the corporate culture of Mapecon has always been very strong since the beginning. Ever since I was a kid, I wasn't even working for Mapecon, but I was here during my summer vacations, working to get money to spend, because I've always been trained that you don't get anything without working hard for it. And I believe that is part of the corporate culture. So the core values and the documented or the articulated mission and vision, these are just ways to put that down on paper. But
Yeah.
the corporate culture has always been there.
So you've been doing this for 59 years. The company has been living, breathing, and working with this kind of belief system, with these values.
That's
How
correct.
does then, how has the company been celebrating the fruits of its labors for the past how many years? What are the traditions of the
Uh,
annual celebration?
October is actually a very big month for Mapecon because October is when we celebrate the anniversary of the company, which is actually on the day of our founder's birthday. So
Mhm.
Mr. Katan's birthday is on October 28th,
On the
and
same day.
on the same day, and that's when we celebrate our anniversary. And we usually do that by having an annual managers conference.
Mhm.
Um, we
What
get all,
happens?
yeah,
What
all
happens?
the branch managers. As I mentioned, we have 46 branches nationwide, so managers from
From
all
where?
over.
Like all the way from Cagayan
Yeah,
or
Cagayan Valley, Abra, Mountain Province, Benguet. We have branches there, all the way down to Zamboanga and Tawi-Tawi. We have people from there. So all of these branch managers from all over the Philippines, we usually come together for 2 days of updating ourselves, letting ourselves know what we've been up to, how we did the previous year, and what we can do in the future to help strengthen the company. And we usually do this. It's actually a treat for us because we usually get hosted by a specific region that rotates every year. So,
okay.
for
I was
example,
about to ask if you had your own convention center for this where everyone converges. So that's
yeah,
more interesting, I think, where people get to experience being with their other brothers and sisters in other regions.
that's correct. Because apart from learning from each other, we learn about we learn to celebrate the diversity. For example, last year we were hosted by our Mindanao region, so we were all able to go to Davao, have our conference there. The year before that, one of the other years, we were hosted by Bacolod. So we were able to visit there, immerse ourselves in the culture and the language. And it's been a treat. However, given the current times, we won't be able to physically have our conference, but that won't stop us from still getting together and sharing best practices and our ideas to make sure that we keep Mapecon moving forward so that we can serve our customers and friends uh, to the fullest of our extent, our
Well, I
ability.
imagine that you would still inject your own. You would put in a bit of flavor into the celebration, in spite of the fact that there are restrictions in terms of physical presence and travel.
Oh,
But
definitely.
given that, any things you can share with us about how the annual managers meeting will be interesting for them to attend and participate in.
All right. The conference, this will be our first virtual conference. Truth be told, it's been challenging trying to put this together since this isn't our forte.
Yes.
But again, one of our core values is dynamic research and development, creative, honest work. So we're gonna get it done. The good thing is though, when this all started, one of the things we do in Mapecon kasi is every Monday, we have prayer meetings. No
Mhm.
matter where they're from, Monday is prayer meeting at 5:30 p.m. All of the Mapecons across the country will have their own separate prayer meetings.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's part of the corporate culture. But since the pandemic started, we're not allowed to have gatherings anymore.
Yes.
We actually decided to move it online. So we've been having virtual prayer meetings, which is actually a blessing in disguise because if you think about it, it's really different when not just your group, your branch is celebrating or praying together, but when you get to see everyone.
There's a kind of energy that's
Everyone.
generated, I think, when you
Exactly.
feel the unity or the prayer in unison.
Yes, there's a feeling of a larger sense of community. And one of the crises that our employees are facing during pandemic, especially with all the quarantines and self-isolation, is feeling alone.
Yes,
And that's
that's a
very
good
dangerous.
counterbalance to that kind of mental problem.
Right. So we've opened the avenues of a virtual prayer meeting, virtual morning formations. We've been moving a lot of these online, and it's actually been a blessing in disguise because you get to see, wow, so many people pala out there who care about me.
Yes, and you feel more connected with one another as a
That's
company.
true. Yes, that's correct also.
Mhm. So you mentioned that there will be that's the form that the annual company celebration will be taking. How about the annual birthday celebration of Mr. Catan? He's turning 84. Is that am I correct?
84, yes, this year. And the celebration will also be done online. Well, it's going to be a blend. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give the surprise away.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a blend of both. Kasi it's also one of his joys in life is being able to be there with his Mapecon people during his birthday.
I imagine it's such a part of his
Right.
life.
Yes,
Uh,
it's a major part of his life, and
you
it's
have
really a
employees
source
that
of
have been
joy.
with you for what, 50 years, 30 years, 25 years.
That's correct. We're actually this year we are actually awarding a 50-50 year loyalty awardee. Uh,
That's rare.
right. And we do this every year. We celebrate our 5, 10, 15, 20, our loyalty awardees. This year we won't be able to do it live, but we'll be sure to still honor them as well as give Mr. Katan the happiness of recognizing the people who have been loyal to him.
Your 55th year employee, is this similar to Mr. Catarata, who had been awarded 50 years? He was a former factory worker and is now head of a particular division or department.
Yes, Mr. Catarata, of course, is the head of our research and development. Um, he does uh, uh, he does a lot of things for Mr. Catan on the chemistry side and the manufacturing side. And yes, he did celebrate our 50th. He was awarded with his 50th year loyalty award, I believe, last year.
Mhm. So I guess that's also something to look forward to when you have when you're giving thanks, giving back to someone who's been faithful and generously helping out with the company
For
for
sure, for
5
sure.
years.
Yes, it's something that all loyalty awardees look forward to, even our 50th year awardees. Talagang they're the ones who count. 2 years to go, 1 year to go, ganyan.
Yeah, and even before the pandemic, I think jumping from one company to another or having several companies within a span of 1 or 2 years is just the norm nowadays for a lot of the workforce.
All right. Well, there are a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons being attributed to why attrition is so high, especially in the younger generation. Um, However, we try to provide, like I said, it all boils down again to company culture. We
Mhm.
try to provide a space or a source of income for those who have nowhere else to go. So that's why we have employees who have been here for that long. Is I believe we were the ones who believed in them when no one else would take them in, or when businesses are laying off workers because of difficult times and they
Because
lost their
difficult
job.
times have come in and out through the years.
That's true. This isn't the first calamity again,
In
as I
59
mentioned
years,
earlier.
you would have so many upheavals.
That's true. But we're still here. We're still going strong. That's because of our foundation. Yeah.
Mhm. Maybe could you maybe share some insights on how other companies and other entrepreneurs can somehow help shape a company uh, that can be as resilient and adaptive for perhaps even 59 years?
Okay. Well, of course, I won't be speaking as an expert since I'm not an expert, but I'd like to speak from experience and what I
Yes.
believe has worked for Mapecon. is I really believe that you need to have an identity that's integral to your brand, to your company. The heart of the company, the sure foundation. Um, some people call it the hedgehog principle. Some people call it the corporate culture. But I believe there has to be something at the heart of the company that will define the company and that will define who works for your company, who leads your company, right? And once you have that, I believe you can't go wrong. We're very lucky again in Mapecon. We've always had our Sure Foundation centered on our president, and our president is Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Mr.
That has
Catan,
been
I think, is
possible.
designated as his executive vice president, right?
Right. Mr. Gatan is our executive vice president because
That's the highest human position.
yeah, that's true. Our president is Jesus Christ. This has been published numerous times. We've been told before na gimmick lang yan, it's just a stunt, ganyan. Pero it's really at the heart of Mapecon is really being Christ-centered.
And that ties in with your consistent prayer meetings, or at the beginning of any enterprise, if you have some form of blessing or invoking.
True.
Well,
We actually have a motto for that. We call it we pray before we spray.
it seems it seems like it's a Mr. Catan kind of thing to.
It's kind of counterintuitive, especially if you take up any business courses in college or economics. Seems to go against the grain, but it's been working. Because uh, we've been warned before. I've been warned by some of my MBA friends before
Yeah.
that leaning so hard on the Catholic or the Christian angle will alienate those who are non-believers. But would you believe our experience, my personal experience, because as part of my duties, I've gone to China, I've gone to Thailand, so non-Christian countries. As part of, I've come to learn that people from other denominations, other religions, if they see your convictions, they don't put you down, they don't try to talk you out of it, they respect you.
Yeah.
And they know that you're a man of conviction. They put their trust in you. And that translates well in business.
Yeah.
So being Christ-centered helps our employees because, like I said, in these times of despair, they have something to cling to. They have something to uplift them. It's helpful to our customers because they feel at peace. They feel like a Christ-centered company would not take advantage of me. They would help me.
Exactly. May
Yeah.
puso tong kumpanya, may kaluluwa. Hindi siguro kami
Exactly. And it's also
lalaglag.
good for Mapecon itself because that's what has defined us and that's what has kept us strong through 59 years.
And it's not as if you've been exclusionary. You do have employees who are from other denominations, other
Yes,
cultures.
definitely we do. Yes.
And it's not as if you force the specifics of the beliefs of the company to everyone.
Right. It's more of the living in that way. It's the values. It's living a Christ-like life is what's important.
Given that you have your set core values and this kind of corporate culture, or like the hedgehog principle that you mentioned, is what defines the brand and the organization, the community is probably the best word for it. Have you then, from that bedrock, expanded or innovated further in terms of your products and services, in line with serving and creating employment and creating opportunities for people?
Right. I like the word you use. No? Innovation is really important and is core to Mapecon. Again, one of the core values is creative, honest work. And that entails being always innovating, always inventing. Si Mr. Catan is an inventor, first and foremost. So he has all of these inventions and all of these ideas on how to help our Filipino people. And we're geared and we are primed to support him in that mission. So innovation, yes, we've this year we've launched an official disinfection service. We've learned how to
Disinfection
disinfect.
service is more attuned to the current needs. You're talking about for viruses and other contagion type of disinfection.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny because even before the pandemic started, Mapecon has always been in the business of sanitation, cleanliness and sanitation. Because at its heart, that's what pest control is.
Yes, true.
So when when this pandemic started and we approached Mr. Gatan in one of our meetings, we said, Mr. Gatan, I think we need to start thinking about disinfection services because that's what people need right now. His answer was, "What are you talking about? We've always been in the disinfection service. Don't you know that the spray that we use to kill cockroaches that has disinfectant? Because what's the point of killing the cockroach if you leave behind the bacteria and the germs that the cockroaches possess?" And he proceeds to show us his patents and his formulas, which have been around for decades, that we've been using for disinfection. But it's just a matter of rebranding and using it and letting our customers know that it's one of the services that we can provide.
I think also that helps with the mindset of people because everyone's holding their breath, waiting for the new thing that will help eradicate all sorts of uh, uh, physical and spatial problems
True.
in terms of environments. If they are told that we have existing systems and solutions for the past decade or even 50 years or so, that makes people feel as if all I need to do is tap the right sources,
Yeah,
supplier.
but again, I'd like to just emphasize that whenever we do a presentation to a potential customer,
Mhm.
we like to tell them that uh, hiring a pest control company or hiring a disinfection company, it's not a magic bullet.
Yeah.
We've always been advocates for integrated pest management. And having that approach to disinfection, to pest control, it's very important. It's not just a matter of getting a pest control company to get rid of your pests. There need to be fundamental changes also in how you live your life. There needs to be a cultural change. So as with disinfection, disinfection helps, sure. But is it a cure-all, an end-all and be-all? It's not. No, we still need to do the guidelines that have been set for us: hand washing,
Yeah.
wearing face mask and face shields, uh, being keeping social distance. So this is not a replacement for that. This is just supplement that.
Does the company then have a kind of advocacy, an information campaign to help address the prevention rather than addressing the cure, the curing the end result
Right.
of lifestyle?
Again, yeah, our advocacy has always been, we call it integrated pest management. You'll hear that a lot from a lot of different pest control companies today. But Mapecon was the first to pioneer doing that in the Philippines. Basically, what integrated pest management is it's a change of the mindset from the common way of thinking about pest control. Kasi when you say pest control, it's spraying chemicals. That's it.
And
You kill
it's
the
only
pests.
you're only dealing with it pag marami na. Pero at a
Right,
certain
right.
tolerable level na, normal lang yan may daga, normal lang may ipis.
Yeah, it's reactive. But the fact is, yung sinasabi mo nga, sir, normal yung may ipis, normal yung daga. We have to accept that as part of life because these pests were here. Ang lagi ko na kinukwento yung anay, for example. Uh, yung anay, they work hundreds of hours, 24 hours a day non-stop to construct an intricate delivery system of air, of water, of food. And they make this mound, no? It's beautiful. It's an engineering masterpiece. Tapos tatayuan mo ng bahay sa ibabaw.
Uh,
Nauna sila doon, ginawa nila yon, sinira natin, tinayuan mo ng bahay sa ibabaw. Bakit sila yung peste?
oh.
Nauna sila dun eh. No, but the fact is, pests are always going to be present. But we need to make sure that we're able to protect our health, our investments against them. No, So it's a matter of balance. And again, yung chemical approach is really reactive and it's not good for the long term. So integrated pest management or advocacy has been to educate nga approach is really protect our health, our investments against them, no. So it's a matter of balance. And again, yung chemical approach is really reactive and it's not good for the long term. So integrated pest management or advocacy has been to educate nga it's one of the principles of effective pest management. Is to have an information education campaign, right? So we do that. We provide seminars, we provide technical
Is there a
consultations.
demand for those seminars? Do people actually, do you promote it and then do people ask about it?
For the seminars, we actually usually we package that as part of our deals with commercial clients. For example, hotels, hospitals, schools, restaurants. We teach their employees how to help keep the establishment pest free. Now, for residents or people who just want to learn about this, there is an organization called the National Committee on Urban Pest Control, and their job is really to educate everyone.
Are you a participant in that organization? Are you
Mapecon,
staffed as
of
a
course.
resource person occasionally?
Personally, no, I'm not. But Mapecon is a member of the NCUPC, and Mapecon is accredited by the NCUPC.
Oh, okay. But there's something that you mentioned that kind of triggers an interesting insight that in some ways it's actually people, yung mga tao yung virus, yung mga tao yung peste.
Ayaw naman natin sabihin yan.
Kalikasan.
Pero actually, I've been asked before, sabi sa akin, is there any way to guarantee na zero pest ang isang lugar? Sabi ko, there is. It's possible na 100% walang peste sa isang lugar.
And that
You
is,
just have to remember, where there are people, there are pests. So kung gusto mong walang peste ang isang lugar, tanggalin lahat ng tao. Promise, wala kang makikitang peste doon.
parang ito yung plot ng Age of Ultron ng Avengers. Yung solution, di ba? Walang peste, walang tao.
Humans are the viruses. We're not saying that. We're just saying that.
I think the important thing that you're touching on is that a balance has to be maintained in order.
Right. The approach to pest management and the approach as well to the current pandemic, kasi nga people are waiting for a vaccine. The vaccine, of course, definitely it will help, no, but it won't be a solution for all possible health problems in the future. So it really needs to be an integrated approach. And sabi nga nila, there's no going back. This is the new normal. And that's what we've been trying to do again with pest control all these years, is to have a new normal for pest control, a new normal that says you don't just spray, you practice other ways of pest control. You do mechanical controls, you practice cleanliness and sanitation, and we hope that this paradigm shift in everyone will also translate to that.
Have there been any shifts within the company also within this period, if not just this year, but building up to this year? Shifts in the company in terms of also in light of its 59th anniversary.
When you say shifts, you mean
evolutions, innovations.
Right. Again, we pride ourselves on being pioneers and on having a heart of innovation and creativity. So we've actually we're actually in a constant state of evolution, right? Our current battle cry has been for the past, I think, almost a decade now, from good to great. No, good to great. Of course, a lot of companies have tried to become that, but right now we're trying to go from being great to being excellent, and from being excellent to being living legends. That's a plan of the company. And Mr. Catan has provided with us a 100-year plan. Uh,
Really?
yeah, he gave us a 100-year plan. He
It seems to me
wants.
that meron siyang invention that will allow him to see those 100 years. Ay, hindi niya
Right. Well, of course, as with any entrepreneur, any successful entrepreneur has to be a visionary. But Mr. Gatan, he's always been a visionary. And when you ask, has there been a shift this year? I'm gonna say there's been a shift every year. We've been adjusting to what the type. So Mr. Catan kasi he's a big fan of St. Ignatius of Loyola.
Okay.
So be a man for others, right? Be a man for others, and one of his favorite sayings is, "The world is simple. You just need to find a need, and then you fill it up. That's it." And that's what Mapecon tries to do.
So what can the world expect of Mapecon for the next 100 years that you can share with us?
Right. Well, what we'd like to assure our customers and friends is Mapecon is here to stay through this pandemic, through whatever calamity happens. We are relying on our Sure Foundation, and we are always going to be willing, able, and ready to serve you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Bernard Ryan Atienza. He is the Assistant National Director for Mapecon, and they are going to be celebrating their 59th anniversary this October 28th, since 1961. So
Right,
thank you very much for joining
1961.
us.
Thank you for having me. We appreciate this time, Mr. DeFord.
Yes, and thank you also for helping keeping the hope of the country in terms of moving our economy forward. You've helped people maintain their jobs, and you're actually creating more work and employment and opportunities for people and their families. So for that, we're thankful. On behalf of the Manila Times Coffee Break, I'm the fourth Bulgasaran. Good day.
Thank you.